Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored to present Korean climate health strategy today at this significant event. My name is Jin Yong, Director General of Health Hazard Response Department at the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency. This presentation will focus on global issues and KDC. Climate change database. The colored lines indicate the frequency of specific terms such as natural climate adaptation, heat wave, climate disaster, climate change and health, and climate change assessment. Catastrophic risks of referred to as a climate emergency. Several countries have adopted strategies the development of the health effects of climate change report. Similarly, the fifth National Climate Assessment is the congressionally mandated interagency effort by the U.S. government. Extreme and severe. In April of this year, the CDC, in collaboration with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the National Weather Service, launched the Heat and Health Initiative to protect Americans from heat. Forecast tool offers a nationwide 7-day heat forecast. The heat dashboard The hip 이거 불 들어오는 거 아니야? 이 불은 안 들어오네. 불 들어오는 건 안 돼요? 여기 오케이 됐어요. 그러면 예, the heat risk forecast tools offers a nationwide 7-day heat forecast. The heat risk dashboard is designed for public use, allowing individuals to enter their zip codes to access personalized heat forecast information. Clinical guidance assist health providers in safeguarding and risk population during extreme heat events. This slide highlights population exposure to hot summer days. The bar length indicates the level of increase in population exposure to hot days over 17 years, with Korea and Belgium experiencing substantial increases. The Framework Act on Health and Medical Service, enacted in 2017, provides a legal foundation for climate health policies. According to the law, the first national climate health assessment was conducted in 2021. The mid-long-term strategic plan was established this year, and the second assessment is scheduled for 2026. 왜 이렇게 자꾸 이게 나지? 이것도 안 넘어가는데? 정면을 보고? 정면 해도 안 넘어가는데? 이제 넘어갔네. 오케이. 7번이죠. 7번.
이쪽을 보시는 게 안 되시나요?
이쪽 봐도 돼. 이쪽 보지 뭐. 이쪽 보지. 이쪽 보는 것도 괜찮네. 예, 그게 좋겠다. 그럼. The National Assembly is currently considering amendments to use the law mandate national and provincial policies on climate and health. KDCA is also working towards a comprehensive national policy on climate and health. Let me now explain how strategic approaches in more detail. This slide outlines KDCA's policy framework for a climate resilient health system. Our goal is to implement sustainable, actionable, and systematic policies.
다른 리허설을 좀 해야 돼요.
네.
혹시 이
됐어요.
원고
이거 여기 이거로 하면
네, 앞에
되구나.
보시고 하시면 되거든요.
됐어요.
네. 혹시 이 원고가 더 있으신가요?
원고 하나 더 있는데.
하나 주실래요?
왜요?
통역사가 왜냐하면 이걸 갖고 연습하고 있었는데 통역사가
이거 갖고
지혜 감독님, 하나, 둘, 셋,
로딩.
하나, 둘, 하나, 둘.
이거는 마지막.
마이크 테스트.
오케이.
조금 올려드려야 돼 이분한테.
오케이.
마이크 테스트.
Yes. Yeah, that's fine. I think. It's look a lot. Okay. Thank you.
땡겨.
마이크 테스트 중입니다. 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 하나 둘 셋, 하나 둘 셋, 하나 둘 셋. 그럼 쌤이 마사히로 하시고 제가 괜찮지는 제가 맡았고요. 네, 제가 오진희 대응관. 네. 이사벨은 같이 했던 네. 네. 그러면 제가 이희섭 이희섭을 해볼까요? 네. 그래야지 맞지 않아요?
Recording in progress.
Mic test. Mic test. Mic test. Mic test. 마이크 테스트. 하나 둘. 기후보건 심포지엄 및 고위급 라운드테이블. Opening. Welcome. Congratulatory remarks. 마이크 테스트 하나 둘 하나 둘. 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 기후보건 심포지엄 및 고위급 라운드테이블. 마이크 테스트 하나 둘 하나 둘. 기후보건 심포지엄 및 고위급 라운드테이블. 하나 둘 하나 둘. Opening welcome remarks, congratulatory remarks, commemorative photo. 기후보건 심포지엄 및 고위급 라운드테이블. 마이크 테스트 하나 둘 하나 둘. 마이크 테스트 하나 둘 하나 둘. 계속해요. 마이크 테스트 하나 둘 하나 둘. 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 하나 둘 하나 둘. 마이크 테스트 하나 둘 하나 둘. 하나 둘 하나 둘. 마이크 테스트 하나 둘 하나 둘. 마이크 테스트 하나 둘 하나 둘. 잘 들려요? 마이크 테스트 하나 둘 하나 둘. 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 Opening welcome remarks, congratulatory remarks. 됐어요?
네, 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 한국어로 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 하나 둘 셋 하나 둘 셋 하나 둘 셋 하나 둘 셋 한국어로 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 안녕하십니까? 오늘 심포지엄 및 고위급 네.
우리는 국민의 일상을 지키기 위해 위기 속에서도 긴장을 늦추지 않습니다. 365일 24시간 빈틈없는 모니터링과 신속한 대응은 지속가능한 감염병 대응 체계를 만들어냅니다. 새로운 감염병을 마주해도 두렵지 않습니다. 꼼꼼하고 신속한 감시 체계는 신종 및 생물 테러 발생에도 효과적 대응이 가능하기 때문입니다. 삶의 매 순간 국민의 질병 부담을 해소하기 위한 우리의 노력은 일상 속 감염병에서도 이어집니다. 사람과 동물, 환경의 유기적 연결을 바탕으로 감염병 예방, 관리 체계를 확립할 뿐만 아니라 경제적 걱정 없이 누구나 예방접종을 받을 수 있도록 지원하고 고위험군의 건강 보호에도 힘쓰고 있습니다. 우리는 최첨단 진단 분석 기술을 통해 대유행 위기 시 감염병 진단의 정확성을 높이고 새로운 감염병 유행과 변이를 조기에 예측합니다. 미래 질병 위험에 대비한 보건의료 연구 역량을 강화하고 있으며 글로벌 보건의제를 선도하는 중추기관으로서 입지를 견고히 쌓아가고 있습니다. 건강한 삶이 오랫동안 이어지는 것, 이는 대한민국 국민 모두의 이야기여야 합니다. 희귀질환자와 가족이 삶의 건강을 되찾고 질병 부담을 줄일 수 있도록 지원하며 국민의 건강과 영양 상태를 조사하여 국가 건강정책 수립에 필요한 근거를 제공하고 있습니다. 당신의 평범한 일상, 그 뒤 보이지 않는 곳에서 언제나 묵묵히 서 있는 사람들, 365일 24시간 질병으로부터 안전한 대한민국을 만들어 나가는 우리는 질병관리청입니다. 우리는 국민의 일상을 지키기 위해 위기 속에서도 긴장을 늦추지 않습니다. 365일 24시간 빈틈없는 모니터링과 신속한 대응은 지속가능한 감염병 대응 체계를 만들어냅니다. 새로운 감염병을 마주해도 두렵지 않습니다. 꼼꼼하고 신속한 감시 체계는 신종 및 생물 테러 발생에도 효과적 대응이 가능하기 때문입니다. 삶의 매 순간 국민의 질병 부담을 해소하기 위한 우리의 노력은 일상 속 감염병에서도 이어집니다. 사람과 동물, 환경의 유기적 연결을 바탕으로 감염병 예방, 관리 체계를 확립할 뿐만 아니라 경제적 걱정 없이 누구나 예방접종을 받을 수 있도록 지원하고 고위험군의 건강 보호에도 힘쓰고 있습니다. 우리는 최첨단 진단 분석 기술을 통해 대유행 위기 시 감염병 진단의 정확성을 높이고 새로운 감염병 유행과 변이를 조기에 예측합니다. 미래 질병 위험에 대비한 보건의료 연구 역량을 강화하고 있으며 글로벌 보건의제를 선도하는 중추기관으로서 입지를 견고히 쌓아가고 있습니다. 건강한 삶이 오랫동안 이어지는 것, 이는 대한민국 국민 모두의 이야기여야 합니다. 희귀질환자와 가족이 삶의 건강을 되찾고 질병 부담을 줄일 수 있도록 지원하며 국민의 건강과 영양 상태를 조사하여 국가 건강정책 수립에 필요한 근거를 제공하고 있습니다. 당신의 평범한 일상, 그 뒤 보이지 않는 곳에서 언제나 묵묵히 서 있는 사람들, 365일 24시간 질병으로부터 안전한 대한민국을 만들어 나가는 우리는 질병관리청입니다. 우리는 국민의 일상을 지키기 위해 위기 속에서도 긴장을 늦추지 않습니다. 365일 24시간 빈틈없는 모니터링과 신속한 대응은 지속가능한 감염병 대응 체계를 만들어냅니다. 새로운 감염병을 마주해도 두렵지 않습니다. 꼼꼼하고 신속한 감시 체계는 신종 및 생물 테러 발생에도 효과적 대응이 가능하기 때문입니다. 삶의 매 순간 국민의 질병 부담을 해소하기 위한 우리의 노력은 일상 속 감염병에서도 이어집니다. 사람과 동물, 환경의 유기적 연결을 바탕으로 감염병 예방, 관리 체계를 확립할 뿐만 아니라 경제적 걱정 없이 누구나 예방접종을 받을 수 있도록 지원하고
Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues and partners in health, it is my privilege to address
The opening ceremony will begin shortly. For distinguished guests and for participants, I'd like to ask all of you to be seated. Today's event is live streaming on official YouTube channel of KDCA 아프지마 TV, and simultaneous interpretation is available. During session, please mute your mobile phones and other devices. Thank you.
하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘. 잠시 후에 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘. 잠시 후에 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 객석에 잠시 좀 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘. 잠시 후에 시작하겠습니다. 하나 둘 하나 둘. 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘. 잠시 후에 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘. 잠시 후에 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 하나 둘 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 하나 둘. 네.
Sorry for delaying. Now it's time to open the KDCA Symposium and Roundtable discussion. Let's begin.
And partners in health. It is my privilege to address you today for this important discussion on the intersection of
The world is facing an unprecedented crisis. Climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's here, and it's directly impacting our health. In 2003, a European heat wave caused 70,000 deaths. And by 2050, climate change is projected to cause 250,000 additional deaths annually, according to the World Health Organization. Air pollution, worsened by climate change, contributes to 7 million premature deaths each year and exacerbates respiratory diseases such as asthma. Climate-related disasters, like floods, increase the spread of waterborne diseases. For example, the 2010 floods in Pakistan caused a devastating outbreak of cholera and other illnesses. Mental health impacts, such as stress, anxiety, and depression, are also rising due to climate-related stressors. Vulnerable populations are disproportionately affected, with limited resources to cope with these health risks. But we are not powerless. The solutions are within reach. Today, we stand united at a pivotal moment in the fight against climate change and its profound impact on global health. Together, through solidarity and collaboration, we can not only address the urgent climate and health crises, but also secure a healthier, more sustainable future for our planet, all species, and generations to come.
Good evening, good afternoon, distinguished guests, esteemed speaker, and participants. Welcome to the Symposium and High-Level Roundtable on Climate Change and Health. My name is Yoonjin An, Director of Climate Change and Health Hazard, KDCA. It's a great honor to be here as a moderator for this occasion. I believe this event serves as an opportunity to share diverse perspectives on climate change and health sector and to foster collaboration on global scale. First, we are now going to listen to the welcome speech delivered by Young-Mi Ji, Commissioner of KDCA. Would you please come up to the stage? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome her with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests and colleagues. I'm Young-Mi Ji, Commissioner of the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency. I'd like to welcome you all to the International Symposium and High-Level Roundtable on Climate Change and Health. I want to convey my deepest gratitude to the public health leaders and experts for your participation in today's symposium and roundtable. Especially, I want to thank Mr. Hee-Sup Lee, Secretary General of Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat, Professor Haji Jume Masahiro from the University of Tokyo, and Professor Isabel Oliver, Chief Scientific Officer of the UK Health Security Agency, who is joining online, as well as Mr. Eduardo Banson from the Asian Development Bank, also joining online, and Mr. Vincent Bretin from Unitate for their valuable contributions to this event. As climate and health emerged as a key priority on the global health agenda, countries and international organizations, including World Health Organization, recognize that the health crisis caused by climate change requires urgent actions at the national, regional, and global levels. COP28 Declaration on Climate Health emphasized the urgency of advancing climate-resilient development, strengthening health systems, and building of resilient and thriving communities for the benefit of present and future generations. Many countries have committed to building sustainable and resilient health systems while strengthening collective efforts to cope with this pressing health challenge. Recently, island countries in the Western Pacific region, together with their neighboring countries in Asia and also globally, have been confronted with an increasing frequency and severity of extreme weather events. These disasters are now posing significant risks to health and well-being of the population. Vulnerability of the Asia-Pacific region to climate-related health threats also present an opportunity for overcoming these climate health challenges. KDCA is also fully committed to addressing this climate health crisis. In April this year, we launched the mid- and long-term plan for climate change and health from 2024 to 2028. With this 5-year plan, we will strengthen climate and health preparedness and response through multi-sectoral disease monitoring and surveillance, build adaptive capacity to climate change, and enhance climate resilience through global and public-private partnerships. In addition, KDCA conducts a climate health assessment every 5 years. Following our initial assessment in 2021, we are now preparing for the second round assessment in 2026 to better understand the health impact of climate change. Drawing on our accumulated scientific data and experience in policymaking, the KDCA is strengthening the international cooperation in climate and health, working closely with global partners. Through our close partnerships with the UK Health Security Agency, UNITAID, Asian Development Bank, and Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat, as well as through joint research, we aim to build a more robust response system for a resilient, climate-resilient future and develop cohesive frameworks and regional as well as global mechanisms to tackle climate health challenges. I do hope this symposium and roundtable discussion will offer an excellent opportunity to raise awareness about the health challenges linked to climate change and explore our strategies to climate-related health threats, while also sharing best practices and innovative solutions on implementing climate health interventions and gathering insights towards establishing sustainable health systems, along with seeking opportunities for collaboration. I very much look forward to learning from the experiences of UK and Japan and gaining insight from UNITAID, the ADB, and TCS to build climate-resilient health system. I wish all of you a very productive meeting. Thank you.
It was inspiring welcome remarks from the Commissioner. Next, Regional Director Saya Mao Piukala of the WHO Western Pacific Region Office will address via video for delivering congratulatory remarks. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues and partners in health, it is my privilege to address you today for this important discussion on the intersection of urban development, climate change, and public health. Let me start by expressing my gratitude to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency for organizing this event. Your leadership in bringing together experts and policy makers is essential for our collective progress. In many parts of Asia and the Pacific, families and communities come together to weave mats as part of our culture. Each member of the community contributes their own strength to make a mat that is useful, strong, and a source of pride. With this spirit, the WHO Western Pacific region has adopted a new vision, weaving health for families, communities, and societies. This vision emphasizes key acceleration points to tackle our most pressing challenges with climate resilient and environmentally sustainable health systems and facilities as one of our top priorities. This aligns with WHO 14 General Program of Work, the roadmap for our work globally over the next 4 years. It emphasizes the critical intersection of climate change and health, focusing on strengthening climate resilient health systems and advocating for lower carbon communities in tandem. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that climate change presents profound risks, threats, and impacts to our cities and communities. Extreme heat, flooding, air pollution, and changing patterns of infectious diseases. These hazards disproportionately affect vulnerable populations in urban areas, making the discussions at this meeting even more significant. We must safeguard our people from the escalating health risks of climate change. Our efforts must extend beyond the health sector, promoting actions that enhance health and mitigate climate change across energy, food, transport, and of course, urban systems. As you engage in discussions, I urge you to consider 3 key actions. First, strengthen our urban health systems to be both climate resilient and low carbon. Second, explore integrated innovative solutions that address both climate and urban health challenges. And third, foster international cooperation, networking, and knowledge exchange among cities. This meeting provides a vital platform to discuss global and regional approaches, share experiences, and develop new solutions. By working together, we can weave a healthier, more equitable, and sustainable future for all. As we move forward, let us use this opportunity to strengthen our partnerships, share knowledge, and commit to concrete actions. I thank you.
Now, let us begin International Symposium on Climate Change and Health. In our first session, we will focus on assessing health vulnerability to climate change. The first session will be chaired by Professor Kim Ho. He is a professor of Seoul National University School of Public Health. Please, Professor.
Good afternoon. I'm Professor Ho Kim. I'm personally a researcher of climate change and health. I'm very pleased and honored to chair this session. We have 3 distinguished speakers today. And first speaker is Director Jin-hee Oh. She is current Director General of Department of Health Hazard Response in KDCA. She has economics background and got a PhD degree in medical science. And she served as many projects in government, and including Presidential Committee on Aging and Population Policy. And she is currently Director General in KDCA and observing many projects and directing a project and lot of project in KDCA. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me joining her with big applause. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to present Korea Climate Health Strategy today at this significant event. My name is Jinny Oh, Director General of Health Hazard Response Department at the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency. Let me start. This presentation will focus on global issues and KDCA strategies in the climate and health sector. The yellow area presents the annual average temperature of the global surface observed from the climate change tracker database. The colored lines indicate the frequency of specific terms such as net zero, climate adaptation, heat wave, climate disaster, climate change and health, climate change assessment. This slide outlines the 6 assessment reports of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which address climate change impacts, risks, and solutions. The projected levels of global warming highlights catastrophic risks often referred to as a climate emergency. Several countries have adopted strategic approaches to address climate impacts on health. For instance, the UK Health Security Agency has spearheaded development of health effects on climate change report. Similarly, the 5th National Climate Assessment is a congressionally mandated inter-agency report by the US government, providing a robust scientific foundation for informed decision-making regarding climate change impacts, risks, and responses. Extreme heat events are becoming increasingly frequent and severe. In April of this year, the CDC, in collaboration with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the National Weather Service, launched the Heat and Health Initiative to protect Americans from heat exposure. You can see the heat risk forecast tool offers the nationwide 7 days heat forecast. The heat risk dashboard is designed for public use, allowing individuals to enter their zip code to access personalized heat forecast information. The last one is clinical guidance. It assists healthcare providers in safeguarding at-risk populations during extreme heat events. This slide highlights population exposure to hot summer days. The bar length indicates the level of increase in population exposure to hot days over 17 years, with Korea and Belgium experiencing substantial increases. This is Korean policy changing history. The Framework Act on Health and Medical Service, enacted in 2017, provides a legal foundation for climate health policies. According to the law, the first National Climate Health Assessment was conducted in 2021. A mid to long-term strategic plan was established this year in April. And the second assessment is scheduled for 2026. The National Assembly is currently considering amendments to the law to mandate national and provincial policies on climate and health. KDCA is also working towards establishing a comprehensive national policy on climate and health. Let me now explain Korea's strategic approaches in more detail. This slide outlines KDCA's policy framework for climate resilient health system. Our goal is to implement sustainable, actionable, and systematic policies address climate and health challenges. Our vision is to enhance public health resilience to climate change. The key goals to achieve this vision include strengthening climate health preparedness and response through multi-sectoral disease monitoring and surveillance, building adaptive capacity to climate change via global and public partnership. The strategic approaches consist of 4 main components. You can see the 4 strategy in the slide. KDCA operates a nationwide heat and cold-related illness monitoring system across 500 emergency rooms. This system identifies and monitors patients with heat and cold-related illness, providing daily reports on occurrence patterns through the KDCA website. The first National Climate Health Impact Assessment conducted in 2021 evaluated 31 indicators across 3 categories: temperature, air quality, and infectious disease. This assessment, conducted every 5 years, investigates and evaluates the health impacts of climate change on the population. In 2021, Korean government conducted the first national public awareness survey on climate change and health. The survey revealed that public awareness of climate health impacts is relatively low, despite high concerns about climate change. To address this issue, we are developing diverse media contents targeting both the general public and vulnerable populations to improve their climate health literacy and awareness. This slide covers the water and foodborne infectious disease surveillance system. To minimize community transmission, we conduct epidemiological investigation and data analysis. KDCA operates 16 climate change-related vectors surveillance centers to monitor major infectious diseases such as dengue fever and severe fever with thrombocytopenia syndrome. These centers assess vector density and pathogen prevalence. KDCA is enhancing surveillance for suspected cases with 5 mosquito-borne infectious disease and imported cases. The 5 mosquito-borne infectious diseases: dengue fever, chikungunya fever, Zika virus infection, West Nile fever, and yellow fever. National surveillance for respiratory infectious disease include influenza-like illness for suspected cases and acute respiratory infection for acute cases. And the last is severe acute respiratory infection for severe cases. To improve data quality and listener representation, KDCA is expanding surveillance institutions and conducting in-depth analysis. This slide highlights the pathogenic Vibrio bacteria surveillance system in the marine environment. We monitoring pathogenic Vibrio species to prevent community outbreaks. The surveillance period of institutions will be expanded, and we are collaborating with the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety to enhance the accuracy of Vibrio vulnificus prediction system. The One Health Council established with the agency formulated long-term strategy and implements measures addressing zoonotic infectious diseases. To prepare for such stress, we conduct regular interdepartmental joint tabletop exercise. To build an effective climate-resilient health system, KDCA is promoting climate adaptation policies at regional and local levels, led by regional centers for disease control and prevention. KDCA is also strengthening global partnerships by engaging external organizations in policy dialogue, collaboration, and initiatives. We also had a meeting this year with the UK and UNITAID and WHO Center and so forth. Additionally, we conduct joint research and disseminated knowledge and resources related to climate health issues. Lastly, KDCA is pursuing extensive interdepartmental collaboration to address these challenges of climate and health. Thank you for your attention and cooperation.
Thank you, Director. Probably we will have some time to discuss at the end of this session. So let me introduce the second speaker, Professor Masahiro Hasezume, Professor of University of Tokyo. And actually it is my extreme privilege to introduce him. I would say he is the best collaborator and friend in Japan in our team. We have known for more than about 20 hours. I still remember we visited small island, Pacific Island, to establish climate change policy for that nation, probably 15 years ago, I guess. And we had very good time, and I was pretty impressed about his devotion for serving public health. So, and he is one of the best researchers in our region in climate change and health area. So he will introduce the situation in Japan now. So please join me in welcoming him with a big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kim, for the nice introduction. I'm Masahiro Hasezume from the Graduate School of Medicine, the University of Tokyo. So today, my talk will be focusing on the heat and health in Japan, because heat is a kind of top priority in Japan in terms of the climate change and health. So, yeah, the temperature in Japan continues to rise, with an annual average temperature by 1.35 degrees every century. And especially after 1990s, there have been more frequent years of extreme heat. And this year in summer was especially very hot, record high temperature we had. The right-hand side, the graph on the right-hand side shows the annual number of heat-stroke ambulance transport in Japan, nationwide, since 2010. So as you can see, there is some increasing trend of the heat-stroke ambulance transport. In the recent 5 years, on average, 75,000 transport occurred for all prefectures. And this data can be freely downloadable from the website of the fire department. So during April till October, every week, the fire department will upload the weekly number of heat stroke ambulance transport cases in each prefecture. So everybody can know what's happening in almost a real time. And right-hand side shows the heat stroke death since 1994. There is also an obviously an increasing trend. And for the recent 5 years, on average, 1,300 heat stroke deaths are happening in Japan. And 80% of them are older population, aged 65 or older. As you may know, Japan is a super age society. 29% of the population is over 65 years old. And older population are most vulnerable to heat. So that's why heat is the top priority in Japan. When I compare the number of heat stroke deaths with the number of deaths due to natural disasters, it's 5.5 times. Natural disaster includes heavy rainfall, followed by landslides, for example, typhoons, heavy snow, earthquake, volcanic eruptions. So, heat is a disaster. This is different data from central Tokyo in 2020. There was a 200 heat stroke deaths in Tokyo, and 90% of them are aged 65 or older, and 90% died indoors, not outdoors. And 90% of those who died indoors did not use air conditioning. As you can see, 50% of them had air conditioner, but they didn't use. And 35% had no air conditioners from the beginning, and in total 90%. The reason of the why they didn't use air conditioner, even though they had, is the top reason is that they worried about cost, the electricity bill. So, especially for poor population, that's a big threat. The second reason is that some people believe that artificial cooling air is not good for health, or they simply don't like the cool air from air conditioners, right? But obviously, the air conditioner now use is very effective to prevent the heat stroke. Right. Heat-related deaths. Actually, when I count the number of heat stroke deaths in the 5 years, 2015 to 19, it's almost 5,000. On average, 1,000 per year. It's coded X30 in ICD-10. But if I, calculated heat-related deaths, the deaths with any cause triggered by heat, by using all-cause deaths and temperature data, by doing the regression analysis, it will be almost approximately 7 times higher than the heat stroke deaths. Okay. So if you are looking at only on the number of heat stroke, you will underestimate the real, impacts of the heat. The cause of heat-related deaths are three major causes: cardiovascular disease, respiratory disease, or kidney disease, which are all, temperature sensitive. Or the people with obesity or diabetes are also vulnerable to heat. So all these deaths, triggered by heat, but the cause of death is not heat stroke, are included in all the heat-related deaths. If you compare the incidence of heat stroke deaths between the countries, Japan is very high incidence. Annual rate per 1 million is almost 6. Okay. But this number is 5 times of South Korea, 1.2. Okay. Or 4 times of USA, 1.45. Does it mean there is a, the 4 or 5 times higher, incidence of heat stroke deaths in Japan than in Korea? I don't think so. Right. I think this data, by the way, this data was collected by the, researchers network from multiple countries. Then I think the difference could be due to the, medical doctors' practice or medical doctors' awareness to heat stroke or heat-related, death. Probably Japanese medical doctors has a higher awareness of the heat stroke than in other countries. Okay. So, when we compare the incidence of heat stroke between the countries, we need some, a consistent, or standard definitions of heat stroke deaths, or compare, estimate the heat-related deaths, by doing the statistical analysis using all-cause data. Okay. The future projections are heat-related deaths and ambulance transport in the end of this century. And base period, if I took the base period in 2010 to 19 with the SSP2 scenario, which is a 2 degrees, scenarios. The heat-related deaths in all prefectures are more than, it will be more than 2 times. Especially in northern prefectures, it will be more than 3.6 times higher. And ambulance transport will also increase by 1.3 to 3 times, compared to 2010, especially in northern part of the Japan. So we need to, think about whether the current, ambulance transport system or ambulance hospital system would be enough to cover once it will be happen in the future. My colleague did some simulations whether the current number of ambulance cars are enough or not. So 100% means that all the ambulance are running, or 100% is all the heat-related ambulance call can be managed by the current capacity. But in the future, with different scenarios of the temperature in the mid-century and the end of this century, it will be more than 100%. Means the current ambulance transport system cannot cover with the increased number of heat stroke. Okay. So Japanese government created a kind of committee to assess the health impacts of climate change, and health is one of the field. And I'm chairing the working group of the health impact assessment. And as you can see, we are assessing the health impact by 3 indicators: significance, urgency, and confidence. And heat-related illness were assessed high or very high, for all 3 indicators. And government developed action plan for heat stroke prevention in 2021. And it outlines a priority measure against heat stroke, especially for older population. And they set the midterm goal by 2030 to reduce the number of heat stroke deaths by 50%. And for the tool to achieve that target, government launched a heat stroke warning system, or we say heat stroke alert, nationwide. And also, some of the municipalities supported some of the subscription for to purchase air conditioners, or some municipalities, set the cooling centers or cooling shelters to prevent the heat exposure for population. Heat stroke alert system was launched in 2020 in the Kanto region, Tokyo metropolitan area, and expanded nationwide in 2021. An alert is issued when the daily maximum WBGT, wet bulb globe temperature, is predicted above 33 degrees. And the alert will be announced at 5 p.m. The day before, or 5 a.m. on the same day, once the WBGT is predicted 33 degrees or above. This is the number of heat alerts issued in each prefecture in 2021. More than 600 alerts were announced in that year. But as you can see, from northern prefecture, Hokkaido, to the southernmost prefecture, Okinawa, the southern prefecture had more number of heat alerts. This is because the temperature is higher, of course, but the threshold is the same for all prefectures, 33 degrees. So for Okinawa, for example, in July, they got the alert almost every day. So people may not be, be able to keep the high awareness, if they have the every day, the alert. So I think there could be some proper or appropriate threshold for each prefecture or each part of the Japan. So my research team is now exploring any optimal threshold in each prefecture. Not only for the spatial distribution, but also temporal threshold might need to be considered. For example, even in the same temperature, the risk of that heat-related deaths are much higher in early summer than in late summer. For example, in June versus August. Both this is observed both in Japan and South Korea. Okay, so people are more vulnerable to heat in early summer. Okay, so the threshold of heat stroke alert might be, better, higher or lower in early summer than in late summer, right? That's also now we are exploring. Okay, as a conclusion, so heat-related deaths or heat-related health issues are top priority in Japan as a adaptation for the adaptation measures to climate change. And adaptation strategies, for example, heat alert system has been implemented in both national and local levels, but the effectiveness of the heat alert has not been assessed yet. So we are now trying to assess their effectiveness to support evidence-based policy making. And a comprehensive all-hazards approach to health crisis management is essential, not only for heat, but also other health issues too. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Azume, for very informative and insightful presentation. And our last speaker is Professor Isabella Oliver, who is joining online. She is currently Director General of Science and Research and Chief Science Officer at the UK Health Security Agency, UKHSA. After finishing her master in London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, she has experienced a lot of public projects and duties, including Director of the National Infection Service. So it's very early morning in UK. So Professor Oliver, are you there? Are you ready to? Okay, all right. Please welcome her with a big round of applause, please.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's such an important issue, a global challenge that none of us can address on our own. So we need to work together and learn from each other. So thank you very much for inviting me. I'm just going to share some slides. I hope you can see those. Thank you. I think I can see there on the screen. So the UK Health Security Agency exists to protect health from infectious diseases and environmental hazards, including chemicals, radiation, and natural hazards such as climate and natural disasters. In this context, we are very conscious that climate change is the context in which we will need to protect health from all of these hazards. So we don't see climate change as a risk to health. We see it as a context which is already driving the risk from infectious diseases and from other hazards to health. As you can see in this slide, the health effects of climate change are very broad. We have just been hearing from colleagues in Japan about the effects of temperature, but also vector-borne diseases, gastrointestinal diseases, mental health, and many others. In fact, we know that even if we took very strong action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, temperatures, for example, temperatures in the UK, but also globally, will continue to increase until at least 2040, regardless of how strong an action we took in relation to carbon emissions. So this means that we need to prepare and we need to respond to the effects of climate change. In the UK Health Security Agency, as soon as we created the new organization 3 years ago, we established a new Center for Climate and Health Security. This is a development that we announced as part of our science strategy, and the aim of the Center for Climate and Health Security was to secure a step change in our preparedness for climate and environmental change. What the center is doing is providing a focus for collaboration with partners and providing leadership across the system, including strengthening the evidence base, not just on the health effects of climate and environmental change on health, but also importantly on effective interventions to protect health in the context of a changing climate. We know that the effects are already being felt, for example, the effects of rising temperatures and heat waves, and we know that we need to support our communities to adapt to the changing climate. Our Center for Climate and Health Security includes an adverse weather events team that plan and respond to adverse weather, including heat waves, but also cold weather events and flooding, for example. And our Center for Climate and Health Security also includes our teams, our medical entomology teams and our vector surveillance teams that are monitoring for the emergence of new vectors in the UK. At the moment in the UK, we do not have any established mosquitoes that carry vector-borne disease. We do have ticks, but we are very concerned about the situation that is happening elsewhere in Europe, with very rapid changes to the distribution, not just of vectors, but increasing numbers of locally acquired cases of vector-borne disease that until the last 3 or 4 years were not present in Europe, including dengue, including Crimea Congo hemorrhagic fever. Our center is not responsible for mitigation of greenhouse emissions, because that is not a responsibility of the health sector, but we do work with partners, particularly to demonstrate the benefits, the co-benefits and synergies from decarbonization strategies. So we know that there are public health benefits associated from actions that can help reduce carbon emissions. For example, benefits in terms of exercise and therefore reduced obesity, but also benefits for mental health from access to green spaces, for example. So the UK Health Security Agency prepares for these hazards. We respond, so we prepare by undertaking surveillance and monitoring these hazards. We respond, so we respond, for example, to heat waves and to flooding events and to, of course, vector-borne disease. And we also build the capacity that is needed in the UK to protect health, including developing the evidence base to allow us to respond most effectively. The breadth of the work that we are doing in relation to climate change and health is very broad. So we are looking at the impacts across all areas of infectious diseases, including antimicrobial resistance. But we are also working, as I mentioned, on protecting health from all threats in the environment. We are particularly concerned about heat waves and flooding, because these are the ones that are already having a significant impact in the UK. But importantly, we are also making sure that we are supporting local governments, because the local communities and the local authorities have got an important role in creating the environments that will support people and communities to adapt to the effects of climate change, including some of the actions that our colleague from Japan mentioned, including access to cooling spaces, for example. We have published an adverse weather and health plan. This is the plan that supports the whole system, not just the health system, but also care and businesses to understand their roles and responsibilities and the actions that they can take in adverse weather events. Under this weather plan, there are a number of tools that people can access, and it includes guidance, it includes the evidence base for the guidance and advice, but importantly, it includes weather and health alerts. We work with our meteorological office to provide alerts to the health and care system and to the public. And we do that both for heat waves and also for cold weather events, because although temperatures are rising because of the aging population, we are also seeing increased mortality and increased adverse health effects from cold weather. And at the moment, in fact, in the UK, only 2 or 3 days ago, we issued an adverse weather and health alert in relation to cold weather. But of course, heat-associated mortality is one thing that we are very much concerned about. We are seeing excess deaths every summer now, associated with the periods where we issue heat health alerts. The information that you have here is from 2022, which was the year where we had 3 short periods, but 3 periods of significant increase in temperatures, and is the first time ever in the history of the United Kingdom when we reach a temperature of 40 degrees Celsius for a day. And as you can see here, we observed nearly 3,000 excess deaths in that period, that short period. It was a bit lower than what we had modeled, and we hope that some of these indicates that the issuing of the heat health alerts allows people to know what they need to do and prevent some of the adverse health effects, because we know that if people cool down quickly, the adverse health effects can be avoided. We've also, one of the big things that our Center for Climate and Health Security has done is to publish a report on the health effects of climate change. We published this almost exactly 1 year ago, and it was a very big undertaking. It's a very comprehensive report with 15 chapters, each chapter covering a particular aspect of the health impacts of climate change. As you can see in the slide, it goes from infectious diseases to actually what we can expect in terms of impact from chemicals, because some chemicals will be also affected by the, for example, the rise in temperatures. This report is important for us because it provides the state of the evidence in relation to climate change and health. So it describes everything that is known about the impact that climate change will have on health in the UK. But importantly, it also highlights where there are gaps in that evidence and where we need to do more research to understand not just the health effects, but also how to protect health from those. And the other thing that's important to say is that this was a collaborative effort working with experts, 90 experts from universities, from industry, and from international organizations. The messages from this report are important, so there is a lot of information in it, and that's one of the key messages. So we know that climate change is already having an impact on health. We know what those impacts are going to be. So one of the key messages is there is evidence, so we need to act on it. It's not just about thinking, well, what will happen? No, I think we know what's going to happen potentially. There may be, those impacts may be greater or smaller depending on the actions that we take in relation to mitigation, but we know what the range of those impacts is going to be. We also know that the health effects of climate change are not going to be equally distributed in the population. There will be inequalities in terms of geography, in terms of age, in terms of vulnerability of populations, including socio-demographic factors. We know that the health impacts will be greater with progressive warming. So unfortunately, we are not in a good trajectory, and we are concerned, obviously, that the slower the progress towards reducing greenhouse gases, the greater the health impacts. However, many of these adverse health impacts are still avoidable through mitigation and reduction of greenhouse emissions, and others, even if we cannot prevent the increasing temperatures, we can prevent some of the health impacts through effective adaptation. So we've discussed heat mortality. We know that flooding has a very big impact on mental health and well-being. Many of these impacts are preventable through effective adaptation and support of our communities. Our report highlights what will be the greatest impacts in the context of the UK. So the evidence base is strongest for the health impacts due to heat and to cold, because mortality will continue to increase as well in the UK, as well as heat. Flooding, including mental health and well-being particularly, and vector-borne diseases. There is also strong evidence around impacts on food safety and food security due to changes in and more volatile food chain production. And we also know that there are areas that have not been a risk in the UK previously, like drought and wildfires, which might start to cause problems in the UK. There is less evidence in other areas, including aeroallergens and areas around exposure to chemicals. As I mentioned, the health risks won't be equally distributed. So if you look at the flooding effects, there are some communities in the UK that will be much more affected than others and are already being affected. The same happens in relation to heat and other factors. So we have been working with local government to identify at low geographical level which are the communities where a range of health impacts come together with vulnerabilities in the population, such as age distribution and socio-demographic deprivation. And where all these factors come together, those communities are particularly vulnerable. So the lessons from the report are that we do have a lot of evidence, so we do need to act on the evidence. We are working in the UK Health Security Agency to deliver a program of work to reduce the impacts of climate change. We cannot do this alone, so we need to work with other government departments, with academia, with international organizations and partners like KDCA, and to translate that evidence into action. We will be having an event in the new year about specifically thinking about how can we translate all of the evidence into policies that help our communities be better protected and adapt to the changing climate. So lots of activity, lots of challenges, and it's very good to exchange information with you all to see how we can learn from each other to make sure that our communities are better protected in the context of our changing climate. Thank you very much.
The first session is closed, and now we will start to take a picture of. Now we are before the round table. We will take a commemorative photos here, and distinguished guests, please come into the center of the stage. And after taking a photo, while rearranging the stage, we will take a short break for 5 minutes.
하나 둘 셋 하나 둘 셋 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 하나 둘 셋 하나 둘 셋 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 하나 둘 셋 하나 둘 셋 하나 둘 하나 둘
하나 둘 하나 둘
하나 둘 마이크 테스트 하겠습니다. 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 하나 둘 셋 하나 둘 셋 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 하나 둘 셋 하나 둘 셋 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 하나 둘 하나 둘 하나 둘 셋 하나 둘 셋 마이크 테스트 중입니다. 하나 둘 하나 둘
Let me introduce the second session in advance. The high-level round session chaired by KDCA Commissioner with the participation of prominent figures from TCS, ADB, United, Tokyo University, UK, HSA, and KDCA will be critical forum focusing on the intersection of climate change and health. Please come up to the stage. Please. ADB and United are also participating online. Now, let us begin the high-level roundtable session. Please give me a big round of applause to Youngmi-ji, who will lead us as a chairperson.
Thank you. So I'd like to welcome you all to the high-level roundtable on global perspective and future challenges in climate change and health. So following three presentations from the previous session, I think we have good information on those three countries. And we have now in this session 6 speakers, 3 online and 3 here. So in this session, we will discuss what can be done to foster our collaboration to minimize the climate impact in health and explore innovative solutions to build climate resilient health systems and facilitate dialogue on enhancing global collaboration between countries and international organizations and develop cohesive frameworks and resource sharing mechanisms. So in this session, I will introduce 6 speakers. So 3 speakers we already heard from the previous session, and 3 additional speakers, including Mr. Hisop Lee and Dr. Edward Branson from ADB and Dr. Vincent Britton from United. So I will actually start with Isabel because I heard that you have to leave early. So what I want to propose is for those speakers who already spoken during previous session, maybe 3-4 minutes. For those speakers who have not spoken in the previous session, maybe much longer than that. So I understand you, the ADB and United also has some slides. So I will start with Isabel. Are you ready?
I think in my presentation I set the context in which we are working in the UK, particularly the great importance of climate and environmental change for us as the context in which we are going to have to protect health from a range of threats, but also the importance of working in collaboration across sectors, across professions and across countries to tackle this complex problem, because it is a really complex problem. And I think from my perspective there has been a lot of work to describe the problem, to describe the impacts, but we are not doing as much in terms of understanding what actions we need to take at all levels, at individual level, at community level, at regional and country level, to protect our communities from the effects of climate change. And those effects are already being felt, so it is important that we take action rapidly. But also we need to make sure that we are communicating a positive vision for the future, because although climate change is real and is being felt now, we know that if we take action, we can prevent and avoid a lot of the potential health effects from climate and from climate and environmental change. So from our perspective, we are very keen to work with you and other partners to make sure that that we protect our communities and our countries as well as possible. We do have evidence that our own alert systems are effective in the UK, but we know that there is more than obviously can be done. So happy to answer any questions and contribute to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. I really want to congratulate you and UK Health Security Agency for establishing Center for Climate and Health Security, Center for Climate and Health Security, and also producing a lot of very comprehensive publication on the climate and health, and also very long report you produced. And I heard from you that you were worried about tick-borne disease especially. We actually have quite extensive tick-borne disease surveillance, so I think that can be one of the areas for collaboration. We already have very good collaboration, so that can be included as part of our climate and health area collaboration. So thank you so much. And then our next speaker is Mr. Hee-Seok Lee from Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat. So please, Mr. Lee.
Yeah. Good afternoon, the honorable colleagues and distinguished guests. I'm delighted and honored to take good opportunity to introduce TCS to you today. All of you know the UN. UN is the international organization in the world. EU in Europe, ASEAN in Southeast Asia. So the Northeast Asia, TCS, Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat, TCS, is an international organization composed of the China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea, established in 2011. So it is great honor for me to address you at such a significant roundtable where we gather to discuss an issue of profound importance, not only for our three countries, China, Japan, and Korea, but for the global community as a whole. The 9th Trilateral Summit, CJK Trilateral Summit, was held in Seoul on May 27th this year, after more than 4 years. At this critical gathering, our leaders identified 6 key areas for cooperation, including public health and aging society, climate change responses for sustainable development, and disaster relief and safety. This forum offers a timely opportunity to translate these high-level commitments into practical actions, particularly in advancing collaboration on climate-related health issues and disaster management. As neighboring countries in Northeast Asia, China, Japan, and Korea share the common vulnerability, especially as climate-related disasters become more frequent. With regard to aging population, as of 2023, Japan reached 29.3% of the population, which is the highest in the world. Korea has reached 19.2%, from 17.6% in 2021, the fastest in the world. And China numbered 217 million, 15.4%, the largest in the world. All of 3 countries are number 1 in the world. At the same time, all 3 countries face critical low birth rates, with especially Korea's rate at just 0.72. This demographic shift places pressure on the healthcare systems, especially as older populations become more vulnerable to climate-related health risk. Also, climate change is intensifying the frequency and the impact of natural disasters such as typhoon and floods, which are becoming more common in our region. This underscores the urgent need for joint action on both climate change and disaster management. At the 9th summit, our leaders reaffirmed their commitment to carbon neutrality and sustainable development, with a strong focus on cooperation for green energy transitions. In parallel, our countries have long worked together to strengthen disaster preparedness and response in the trilateral ministerial meeting on disaster management since 2009. As such, China, Japan, and Korea are determined to navigate these interconnected challenges through trilateral cooperation, technological innovation, and shared commitments to sustainability. The TCS has been actively involved in the facilitating discussions and fostering collaboration among our three nations on these very issues. In the fields of public health and aging, climate change, and disaster management, TCS has participated in the intergovernmental platforms, including the ministerial meetings. In particular, trilateral forum on the communicables, the disease control, and the prevention has been held since 2007. The 18th forum will be held in Tokyo next month. Building on the important outcomes of these gatherings, TCS co-organized and explored various collaborative projects to address our common challenges. Excellencies, distinguished guests, looking ahead, I'd like to outline the several key areas where the three countries can further enhance cooperation. First, establishing a climate health consultation framework. A dedicated climate health framework will foster regular consultations among public health, climate, and disasters experts, improving our preparedness to protect vulnerable groups. Second, a coordinated disaster and infectious disease response. Climate change is increasing natural disasters and spreading disease. So we must work together on the disaster preparedness and health by strengthening our response efforts in alignment with the Sendai framework and incorporating health considerations. Finally, raising public awareness on climate health risks. To effectively address climate change, we must empower our communities, educating the public about the health impacts of climate change will help people prepare for and adapt to these risks. Increasing public awareness and health knowledge is critical steps in helping our people face these challenges. As we look to the future, the link between climate action and public health must remain central to our efforts. Through collaboration and innovation, we can turn this crisis into an opportunity. China, Japan, and Korea have set ambitious carbon neutrality goals, and it's time to align our healthcare systems with these targets. By building sustainable, resilient healthcare infrastructure, we can protect our populations from climate change while promoting a healthier, more equitable world. We also look to global health leaders like the WHO, ADB, UNITAID, UKHSA, and the KDCA for guidance in the strengthening our efforts. So our TCS, the role of the TCS in the additional the efforts with the other international organization and the countries. TCS has been actively co-organizing and collaborating on impactful events with the international partners, the UNSCOP and the UNDRR and the IFRC. So in particular countries, the Mongolia is so the TCS also plans to support the upcoming UNFPA State of World Population event focused on the gender inequality and reproductive health. Through these and other initiatives, TCS continues to drive a meaningful collaboration on regional challenges, turning strategy agreements into tangible, impactful outcomes. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, for your insight. As you already mentioned, there are some mechanisms between three countries already. So I think climate change and health can be included in all those three-country meetings. So for the meeting in December, I think we can also include vector-borne diseases. I think that has been always included in the agenda for three countries as a priority. So we can continue to work with those agenda during three-country meeting. And so thank you. And I now want to invite, according to the timetable, again, Professor Masahiro Hashizume from the University of Tokyo. So you, during your presentation, you mentioned regarding your high number of the patient and death due to heat. It could be related to the alert and awareness level of doctors. And you also mentioned prefecture specific, more regionalized threshold for the heat alert. I think that was also quite good idea. And then you also mentioned the all hazard approach. So maybe if you want to add some more on that, or if you have some other things you want to add, so please.
Thank you. Yeah, as I mentioned in my presentation, yes, the Japanese government launched a heat alert system, and that effectiveness has not been formally assessed yet. So the next step would be to assess its kind of usefulness to contribute to the evidence-based policy, I think. And my talk focused only on heat and health, but also vector-borne diseases are also another priority. For example, the impact assessment report of the Ministry of Environment has been revised every 5 years. The first report was published in 2015, and the third revision will be published next year, 2025. And in that latest report, vector-borne diseases were assessed high in terms of significance and urgency, especially for the diseases transmitted by Aedes mosquitoes, such as dengue fever, or chikungunya, or Zika virus. Another, priority is a disaster-related, health issues or compound health impacts by the disasters, such as flooding, or typhoons, or heavy rainfalls. Yeah, because Japan is a disaster-prone country, and after the disaster, a lot of medical facilities also damaged, and a kind of the people's chronic disease patients cannot continue their treatment. So that's also the issues. I didn't mention about the mental health. Mental health is another important, I think, issues. Although mental health has not been much focused on the previous, impact assessment report by the Japanese government, probably the next report next year, it will be more or less highlighted because it's not totally a negligible, right? So also it's called impact assessment report, but from next year, the effectiveness of adaptation measures will be also included in that report by the Ministry of Environment. Yes, so, right, and then based on that, each municipalities are, recommended to develop the adaptation plans. Yes, based on the health impact assessment report and adaptation effectiveness of adaptation measures. That's our situation in Japan, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your additional insight on the climate and health issue in Japan. And then now I want to invite Mr. Edward Bansen from ADB. I believe you have some slide to show. No?
Sorry, I don't have slides.
Oh, right, okay. So, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thanks for inviting us. I think, can you hear me? Sorry. When we talk about climate and health, it's quite, in a sense, you used to recall that I would talk about this a decade ago, and it was something where health people would say, what's it all about, right? But what's quite interesting, and really, something we would appreciate is that now climate and health, its relationship is something that's accepted. I just came from the COP29 in Baku, and again, the issue of climate and health and the need to act on it was again highlighted. And you can go back to Glasgow, where they started to take actions. And so there is now a growing acceptance that we don't really, that actions on climate, climate actions essentially are health actions. And it's also being emphasized that climate change is actually considered now by some as the greatest public health threat that we have. So the next is now the new COVID-19 pandemic. So in a sense, the challenge for us now is within the health sector, how do we take action? And among the things we in ADB are now working with our developing member countries so they could take, so we could support them as they undertake actions on addressing climate change and health issues. And one of the things we would like to emphasize is that this should not be seen as incremental. This should not be seen like another separate new vertical program. But in a sense, projects related to climate and health are projects, but really trying to help transform how the health sector actually is, so that there's going to be co-benefits. The health sector health systems are actually addressing the concern. So it's like we have to stop discussions like there should be a separate surveillance system just for vector-borne diseases, but we should strengthen surveillance systems of countries so that they can address and identify and guide, and in a sense guide actions, immediate actions, to help impacts of climate change, which used to be vector, but now we're talking that it's actually also heat and all that. So we should avoid having this vertical approach. When we talk about financing, we should look at the financing of by external agencies as catalytic. So because at the end of the day, the bulk of the financing for health is coming from government budget. So the latest numbers we're seeing is that in 2022, we spent about nearly $10 trillion in health, of which about 6.1 trillion is domestic financing, and private sector budget financing, and 3.7, 3.8 is private. And external funding, including those coming from ADB, is only about 28 billion. So if we want to say that we're spending on climate action, the key part there is to make sure that the budget, the domestic financing, and the private sector financing is also contributing substantially, or what they're actually spending for health is having benefits in addressing climate change. So imagine that when we start talking now of building hospitals, hospitals that should be low carbon should become the default mode. It should not be considered as something extra. Licensing of health facilities should be mandating that all health facilities should be low carbon. Procurement decisions should be, it's routine that it should now be low carbon pharmaceuticals and so on. Health workers should be trained and made to understand climate actions as part of their curriculum, not as additional short course that they should just know, and so on. So we're in a sense, we need to embed the climate resilience and low carbon in the way health systems are being designed. Existing health facilities should be decarbonized tomorrow. It should not be seen as special projects that you will only do. If health sector has sort of a moral imperative that it should be net zero tomorrow, because the health sector takes care of the people who are dying or are getting sick because of climate change. So among all the sectors in the world, the health sector should by itself have this moral obligation to be the first sector to be net zero. So that is how we're looking at this. This is should not be seen, again, sorry, being repetitive, as another project type operation where you do a climate change and health project and all that. But really, we need to embed climate resilience and low carbon to be part of health system. We need to have transformed how financing for health is viewed, so that it actually have health co-benefits and climate action as a routine part of financing. We need to make the private sector comply using all the tools that you have in the health sector, from health insurance, purchasing health services, regulation, all that. And we and us, external financing, will be the catalytic. We're not the answer, but we're just nothing but catalytic financing to help drive this transformation and embedding. I'll stop it. Thank you.
Thank you for your insight, and also I want to thank ADB's interest and support for the health issues, including climate and health. And among your health and climate-related projects, I understand you support surveillance for the climate-sensitive diseases such as malaria and vector-borne diseases in some Asian countries. And I just want to let you know that we have established Global Security Coordination Office last year. And with that, we are organizing some training courses. And recently, we had a training on the vector surveillance. And that training course was very popular among ASEAN countries. So if you have some of those requests from some countries in Asia, I think you can probably link those countries to us so that we can provide some training courses for those countries for the vector-borne disease and especially vector surveillance. Yeah, thank you.
We surely, of course, will be reaching out so we could help our other developing member countries build up that expertise and do a great job as Korea has been doing. So yes, we will be in touch.
Thank you. And now I want to invite Dr. Vincent Breton from Unitate. Are you ready?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me well?
Thank you. So please.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and share a few slides. So I see the slides are coming up. So first of all, thank you so much, Commissioner Lee, for the invitation to join this very important conversation. And I think this is one reflection of our long-standing partnership between United and KDCA. And so what I'd like to do today is give you a few examples of how climate change is now influencing the way we work at United on the introduction of health products in low and middle income countries. Introducing health products focusing on equitable access to medicines, diagnostics, and other tools has been what we've been doing for the last close to 20 years. We introduced more than 100 products making them affordable, quality, and available to those who need them most. And now, since a few years, we're starting to look at what climate change means to our work, and have already taken some steps to adapt our approach. So the first example I want to give you is an example for tuberculosis. And about a year ago, we looked at all the existing publications that we could find in terms of the relationship between climate change and tuberculosis. And sometimes tuberculosis is not the example that comes to mind when people think about a disease that is climate sensitive. But when you look at the data, the published evidence, you actually find a lot of evidence of how climate change is making tuberculosis more challenging. And that comes from a variety of pathways. Most of them are indirect, meaning it's not TB directly impacted by climate change, but it could be co-infections, it could be malnutrition, it could be access to water, it could be crowding, it could be the health system disruption, displacement, stigma, all those factors that we know are determinants of health and tuberculosis in particular. And so this got us to think about what are some of the potential solutions for us working on products that we could bring and help address some of these issues. And it happens that we have in our portfolio of investment some investments to develop long-acting technologies, long-acting medicines that can replace oral treatments by a single injection. And take the example of TB prevention. Right now, you need to provide treatment for 3 months, oral tablets that are taken every week, for someone to get this preventive treatment and avoid developing active tuberculosis. With the product that we're currently developing, if this is a successful development, we could replace this treatment by a single injection, providing the entire course of treatment and protection. And if you think about implementing this in the context of challenged health systems, communities that are affected by climate change or that are at risk of being affected by climate change, we have a unique opportunity to make the solution more resilient. So the injection would be actually a climate adaptation, a climate resilience solution. Let me move to a second illustration of how climate change and health products interact together. And this is the supply chain of malaria treatments. And you're probably familiar with the main malaria treatments that are used today by hundreds of millions of people every year, which are artemisinin combination therapies. And this map illustrates the journey of this treatment. It starts in China because one of the ingredients of the treatment comes from a plant that you see on the picture on the right, which is artemisinin. And we know that this is a plant cultivated mostly in China that is sensitive to climate conditions. And history shows that in years, for instance, where the climate is too hot or too dry, the quantity of ingredient we get from the culture can decrease by 30 to 40%. So this is one supply risk already at the very beginning of this journey. But then the journey continues to India, where most of the manufacturing of this product happens. And we realized in our research that most of the manufacturing sites that are producing this medicine are located in 2 regions of India, very concentrated regions, very close to each other. And when you look at flooding risk, among others, in a country like India, that appears to be a potential risk in the future in terms of supply availability if one of those regions was to be impacted by such an event. And then the journey continues to Africa, and this is showing the example of Nigeria, the most affected country by malaria, where the drug is first of all stored for some time, transported to local communities, and then dispensed to the communities. And one thing that our research has shown as well is that this is a drug that is potentially sensitive to storage condition, and in particular could deteriorate if it's kept at a high temperature for too long. And we know that in countries like Nigeria, the risk of extreme heat is only going to increase with climate change, unfortunately, in the coming years. So this shows on one single product, first of all, the complexity of the supply chain, but also the many ways in which climate events are actually creating vulnerabilities on supply chains. And this is why, for instance, we want to look more closely as United to what we can do to improve the heat stability of some of those products. Let me move to a third example of how climate change and products interact with each other. A year ago, at COP28, we published a report called From Milligrams to Megatons, where we analyzed 10 key products that are in our portfolio, are used in many countries around the world, from the perspective of their carbon footprint. The report is called Milligrams to Megatons because one of the treatments we looked at is HIV treatment. So this is not the one reflected on the slide, but HIV treatment is a treatment that involves 650 milligrams of active pharmaceutical ingredient in a daily treatment, in a pill. But when you look at the emissions on a yearly basis worldwide, this is a treatment that reaches 24 million people today, and the emissions amount to 2.6 million tons of carbon dioxide per year. And 2.6 million tons, to give you a sense, is the same emissions as the city of Geneva. The report also outlined some of the potential solutions and actually showed that this drug, HIV treatment, could be decarbonized up to 40% without increasing the cost of production. The slide here shows other examples coming from the same report related to tuberculosis, one with multi-drug resistant treatment, one related to molecular platforms used for diagnosing multi-drug resistant TB. I'm not going to describe all the data, but we've looked at not only the climate impact, so CO2 emissions linked to those products, and identified where the emissions are coming from in those supply chains, but also looked at the nature impact. And I want to emphasize that, oftentimes we focus on greenhouse gas emissions, but health supply chains also have a broader environmental impact. For instance, creating potential AMR risk when we have inadequate waste management at the point of manufacturing of antibiotics, or issues related to plastic waste. With a lot of medical devices that we use, a lot of the rapid tests that in the end create very significant quantities of plastic that are oftentimes not recycled. And plastic, of course, is important from an environmental standpoint, but also from a health standpoint. There is evidence showing that plastic waste can catalyze the development of vector-borne disease because you have pockets of water that can stay within plastics and be breeding sites for mosquitoes. You have evidence showing that microplastics can also increase the risk of AMR. So we should also look at plastic from the perspective of public health. And I want to highlight as well that next week in Korea, in Busan, will be a very important negotiation meeting around an international plastics treaty. Let me conclude by showing how United is taking this forward. So in our climate and health strategy, launched a year ago, we committed to mainstreaming climate-smart health products in our work, meaning that in every investment we make to introduce health products in LMICs, making sure that they are not only delivering for health outcomes, but also for climate outcomes. And those are summarized here, being not harmful, resilient, responsive, and locally adaptive. I'll conclude by saying that, of course, United will do its best to promote those climate-smart health products, but this is also a much broader sectoral transformation that is required. We need countries to start moving, on this agenda, and some of them are doing that, very clearly. We need industry to push further their thinking in terms of decarbonization, in terms of innovation, in terms of new products, better alternatives that would work better for climate. We need regulators as well to start evolving their frameworks and standards and practices. We need large financial institutions like ADB, who we just heard about, to also support this journey. And finally, we need partnerships, and here it's important to flag ATTACH, the Alliance for Transformative Action in Climate and Health, which is led by WHO and is a very important platform for this collaboration. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Vincent, for your very nice presentation on what United is doing for the climate and health issue, including United investment for the climate, smart health product, also some examples you gave us. And I'm always happy to work, Korean government is always happy to work with United. United is really doing some practical work which can really give some impact in the field. So really appreciate, and we will be happy to work closely with you for coming years for the climate and health issues. Thank you. And lastly, I want to invite Dr. Jinhee Oh. So she already gave some presentation. So maybe Jinhee can talk about what we can do together after this symposium and roundtable discussion.
I already gave a presentation in the previous session, and because of the time limit, I would like to give very short comment on this meeting. The head of KDCA, Young Mi-ji, my boss, proposed a global climate and health symposium and a high-level roundtable meeting in this spring. I'm very delighted that it has been successfully held today with the cooperation of the UK Health Security Agency and TCS ADB, UNITAID, and many specialists, including Professor Masahiro Hashisume and Professor Kim Ho. I deeply appreciate your support and sincerely hope this event will further strengthen global networking and collaboration for climate and health initiatives. I would like to send the conclusion of this meeting. It's very important issue for need to collaboration with other countries and other organizations. So I would like to suggest we need to continuously have this meeting to solve this problem and strengthen initiatives to solve this problem. TCS is very important organization to improve collaboration neighboring countries for Japan, China, and Korea. I think we can collaborate continuously. We have some organizations such as China, Korea, and Japan has annual meeting system, so we can discuss this issue regularly, and we can talk about this issue with the UK Health Security Agency. KDCA is enhancing vulnerability study and climate health assessment and conduct discussion regularly through the scientific conference with the UK Health Security Agency. And we need to continuously cooperate like this meeting or another action. I hope we need to cooperate continuously. Thank you.
So as Jinhee mentioned that this meeting shouldn't just be one event, and we really hope to share our experiences and practices among countries and also international organizations. So hopefully we can regularly organize this climate and health symposium and roundtable regularly. And also I realized that the UK and Japan, Korea has climate and health assessment regularly. So we can also share those assessment report and result together during that consultation meeting. And I understand there is a WHO global conferences on health and climate change every 2 years. But I do think we also need to have those conferences or consultation meeting at the regional level, maybe focusing more on each region and also countries. So maybe we need to also propose a kind of regional consultation meeting to regional office in WIPRO. And so that's another thing we can propose. And from Dr. Saya's opening speech, he also mentioned the importance of urban health system. 90% of Japanese people live in urban area. Probably probably have very higher proportion of people in Korea also live in urban settings. So that's very important issue. And he also mentioned developing and implementing some innovative solutions for the climate and health, and cooperation and networking. So 3 things he emphasized, and those are very important, I suppose. So he, as he mentioned, we need to have more regional and region-specific, country-specific consultation on climate and health issues. And maybe I also want to thank Professor Ho Kim for joining us. And if there is anything you want to add, that will be appreciated.
I think Japan and Korea are sharing many common problems, including aging and climate change also. So, but the thing is that Japan experienced the problem a little bit earlier than Korea. So we can learn a lot from their experiences. And data sharing and collaboration of research is a very important foundation of the collaboration. And one thing I'd like to say is that how to improve the collaboration with China is major challenge also. So I have some good and bad experiences with Chinese collaborator. So, and the importance is getting larger and larger nowadays. So using TCS and other international agencies, improving the international collaboration, especially some climate change and the transportation and immigration, that kind of urbanization, all the problems we are experiencing together. So sharing our knowledge and experience among those 3 countries is a fundamental problems of nowadays. And then we can expand our experience to Southeast Asian countries and other Pacific countries, how to promote their social transition into more resilient society. It's also our historical duty to accomplish a resilient world, I think.
Thank you very much, Professor Kim, for your great insight. And for the 3 country CJK cooperation, we have some mechanism already at the ministerial level and also public health agency level. And I think at least for the public health agency level, KDCA can lead, so we can include those climate change related health issues in the agenda. I think China has been quite accepting, so I think we can start from that. So hopefully. So with that, I want to thank all 6 speakers for this session, and I also want to thank all participants, both in this place, offline and also online, and especially Professor Ho for joining us, Professor Ho Kim for joining us, and also the introducing our 3 speakers today. So hopefully we can meet again next year to continue our discussion and try to really develop some collaboration project and really make some impact in for the climate and health issues. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you.
Now we have reached the end of today's program. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all our speakers, participants for making this event a success. Thank you once again, and we look forward to seeing you in the future event. Safe travels and have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.